I'm Deanne King. Everyone in the community knows me as Stumpy. It's what I prefer to be known as. I'm a proud Wotjobaluk woman. I've lived here most of my life. So I think I've always suffered with mental health, but I hid and masked that as a teenager. Obviously I smoked marijuana for a very long period of my life. So I guess that masked it, so I didn't really know that it was happening to me, that I was going through it. But I feel like I've never had that happiness, true happiness in my life. But in 2013, my brother died of a car accident, my eldest brother. And that's when I kind of started to notice the changes in myself, driving by myself. I would break down and cry for no reason. I started thinking about hitting trees because I just couldn't handle the pain of the loss of my brother. And then obviously in 2017, my partner suddenly dropped dead. He's the father of all 5 of my children, and that's when it escalated. Losing the kid's father, that's, the first year I always say was a blur. And then the second year is just when I couldn't cope anymore. So, you're doing things like drinking behind closed doors, nobody knows. I know, and I was very angry at my mum and my family. I was very angry at my workplace because I wanted them to swoop in and help me. You just want that pain to go away. I used to say that I felt like I was drowning, but my head was just above the water, and if I stopped swimming, I would drown. And that's how I described myself. It wasn't till one day I came to the realisation that no one can save me. I had to do it myself. And it wasn't till I went to counselling that I started to see a lot of stuff that wasn't a reality. The narrative that you have in your head compared to the reality that is going on in your life is 2 different things. So it's been a really rough journey over the last, I would say, 4 years. So I decided then that I would take the time off completely and just stop working to work on myself. Now, I've been to counsellors before, in the period of that time, even before, after my brother died, I went to counselling, and I just, counselling wasn't what I needed, counselling didn't fit me, but you're looking for that quick fix. You think you're going to walk in there, you're going to tell a story, and you're going to walk out and you're fixed. That's not the case of counselling, and it's also finding that counsellor that you fit with. So after I quit my job, I went in thinking, I'm going to find a counsellor, I'm going to go back to counselling, I'm going to try it again. But the things that had changed in my head were, I'm not going to lie anymore. I'm going to be completely honest with the counsellor as well as myself. And I'm just going to give, because you go in and you tell them what you think they want to hear, what you think they can fix. So you don't give everything and you don't tell everything that you're going through. So the last time I went to counselling, I went in with that mindset that I was going to do that. And oh my God, it changed my life. My kids. I can admit now, I wouldn't have admitted it back then. I stopped being a mum. And that's a hard thing to say for someone like me because, my kids were grieving as well. Obviously, and I say this to everyone, our loss is different. They were grieving a father, I was grieving my partner. So, even if it's the one person, it's still a different grief. I stopped being a mother. I wasn't there. I was there physically, but not mentally. I kept running from my problems, so I would not be home a lot of the time. I left them home a lot on their own. Obviously, I've got 2 older kids, so they were sort of, my oldest daughter was kind of being the parent. So, the drinking behind the closed doors of a night time, like I said, I'm not being a mum. I'm coming home from work life was suffering. You know, I blamed work for a lot of things, but the reality is I didn't accept the help that was offered to me. So I was blaming them for not helping me. In reality, I was not accepting of the help that they were offering me. It's the same as my family too. I wasn't accepting of anything. So I got a house, I bought a house, and I couldn't function as a mother and as that head of a household. So, you know, I was very selfish. I was not paying my rent, I was not paying my bills. But the deeper I was going into it, the more I buried my head into the sand and pretended it wasn't happening. So if I pretended it wasn't happening, it wasn't happening. So once you're homeless with 4 kids, that's a huge slap in your face.
Totally, yeah.
So I found a new partner, so we ended up living in a 2-bedroom house at his mother's house with myself, him, his mother and my 3 children in a 2-bedroom flat. And that was the turning point for me, knowing that I couldn't provide any more for my children. I remember there was times when, and you know, my brother always says that, you know, people are selfish that kill themselves, I suppose. But when you're in it, you think that this world's better off without you. There was so many times that I thought, you know, what I put my kids through, they're better off without me. I remember ringing a friend from my car and screaming at her that you better sit at the front of my funeral. I'm in my head figuring out what my funeral looks like, get that all sorted. Then a tree looked pretty good from that point of view. Luckily my friend is a friend and she stayed on that phone with me and she talked to me for probably about 45 minutes to an hour until she knew that I was no longer in that headspace to go follow through. With depression and with grief, you're in that much pain. You know, you become tired. You're sick of waking up every day with that pain, feeling that pain. You go to bed at night thinking that, you know, tomorrow's going to be a better day. But you wake up the next day with that same pain that's surrounds your life, that you just can't see through anything else. This little part in the back of my mind kept thinking, I have 5 little souls that I have to be here for. They've already lost enough. They don't need to lose me. The joy in my heart that I had when I was around them, the smile on my face that they would bring me, and they don't come with, they're little people, they don't have problems. So they don't come to you with their problems, they don't want for nothing for you. All they want is some time to spend with them, run around, have a bit of fun, play, lots of cuddles and kisses and love. So what was the joy that, and I got that from my counsellor. You know, I went back and I found my joy. They were my joy. So they were a pivotal role in my, I'm not going to say recovery, but in helping me through what I needed to get through. I remember a time when I took off. I just had enough one day and I jumped in my car and I left. And I just started driving and I didn't know where I was heading. And I got to a point and I just felt like I needed to turn my car around. And it ended up at the river in Dimboola. And I just sat there and I took my shoes and socks off and I just put my feet in the sand. I watched the reflection of the trees onto the water and the calmness that it made me feel, and I could feel my ancestors just shining down on me. So that was when I realised that country had that healing, that I could go to this place and I could heal my soul. I could make myself feel better, and leaving there made me feel 100% better, and I was then able to come home and deal with the problem that I had. I think country is very, very healing if you open your mind and your heart to it.
Yeah.
And it's good. You can sit there, you can cry, you can scream, you can yell, you can, jump up, you can do anything you want. Nobody's there watching you except the trees, the water and the ground. Yeah. You don't realise that once you start expressing how you feel and putting it out there, how much support you actually do have, and that people don't judge you the way you think they're going to judge you. I had a lot of shame of, that, I stopped being a mum. I let, the house, what happened with the house. That was embarrassing to me, and it was a story that I didn't want to tell. But sharing it with people that love you and your community, it's not as judgmental as you think that, you think that people are going to judge you and think that you are a bad mum and, how could you do that to your children? But there was more sympathy, I think, than anything else that I got. So I would say to people, don't feel shame about it. You'll be actually surprised at the reaction that you get. But don't expect everyone to come in and fly in and fix you. You've got to accept that, you've got to want that. If you're not ready for that, it's never going to happen. So, having little conversations can lead to big conversations. And you start to realise that maybe you're not the only one that's been through that, or you hear other people's story that makes you feel a little bit better. I think we need to get better at talking about it. As we said before, everyone has trauma, whether it's big or small. Everybody has depression, anxiety, whether it's big or small, but you have to talk about it. You'll be surprised how many people have the same story as you, or similar story as you, or has even been through something worse than you. I remember losing John and thinking that I'm the only one that's lost their partner, and then realising there was a lot more in my community that has lost their partner, and they just come up, I know how you feel, and that was a starting to talk point. You're realising that other people do share what you share, so able to talk to them. And I always found that talking to somebody who has been through that, they do understand, so it's easier to talk to them. Whereas talking to someone that just says, I know, I understand, when they really don't. I'd like to add that if cancelling isn't for you at the start, don't ever give up on cancelling. Wait a few months, go back and find another counsellor. Just keep going with it, and don't go in looking for the quick fix. Definitely make sure you are honest, not just with them, but especially with yourself. Cancelling can change your life. It really, really can. I'm living proof of that. I don't think I ever would have got through this without cancelling. I'll never say I'm not fixed. Depression is something I'm gonna have to live with probably for the rest of my life, and I still have my good days and my bad days, but now I have the tools behind that to not sit in my house and dwell on that for months or weeks or days. I can have a bad day and I can then go find my joy or find something that will pull me out the next day. So don't think that cancelling is not for you, because if you don't really give it 100%, you'll never know. I do want to share one thing my counsellor did say to me at one of the end of my sessions, after I think it was about 13 weeks. She said the girl that came in at 13 weeks was definitely not the girl that walked in on the first session. I was a mess. I was the anger that had built up inside me, she could see. So the girl that sat in that chair 13 weeks later, or 13 sessions later, should I say, there was, the anger has gone. I felt lighter. I feel happier. I have more good days than I do bad. And now I just want to live my life and not make up for it, but I don't want to dwell on things that I can't control anymore, things that made me sad and depressed in the first place. I look past that now, and I look for a better future in myself. And this is probably the first time I felt real happiness in my life.